Thank you so much, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters and guests. Raise your hand. Have any of you ever written a speech? Has anyone ever given a speech? And do you ever plan to give a speech? All right, here's the big one. Do any of you have difficulty writing a speech? All right. Yes, 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 and yes, and yes. Whew, I am in the right spot today. That's what we're going to talk about today, crafting your impactful message, writing a wonderful speech. Not counting the speeches, presentations, and workshops that I have developed, prepared, and presented at work and other organizations, just in Toastmasters, I've given over 570 speeches. In Pathways alone, I've received evaluations on over 200 speeches. Along the way, I have picked up different tidbits and helpful resources, tips that I have incorporated into my speech, and some I definitely should have and will probably start to do as I continue to prepare and give presentations and speeches. Today, I'm going to share some ideas about 6 specific areas for you to consider when you are writing your next speech. Number 1 is your audience. You want to learn and know about your audience. Learn as much as possible about your audience and the event at which you will be speaking. This is going to help you target your insights, experience, or knowledge that you have that the group will want to hear or that they need to hear about. When you start to consider your audience, think about some of these questions. Why has that audience been brought together? What brings the audience together? What did they all have in common? Do you know how big of an audience it will be? If it's a smaller group versus a larger group, how can you incorporate that engagement with your audience? It can vary depending on the size. What does your audience already know, or what do they need to know? Is your audience expecting a discussion on a specific topic? And if so, what? What is your audience's attitude and knowledge about the subject you're going to talk about? What is the attitude of the audience towards you as a speaker? I know coming into this club, you're pretty open to listening to me because otherwise, why would you let me keep coming back? And are they interested in your topic? Once you know a little bit about your audience, now you need to start thinking about the importance of having a clear and specific purpose for your speech. Why are you going to be talking to this audience? I came across this quote from Emerson a couple of weeks ago. Speech is power. Speech is to persuade. Speech is to convert. Speech is to compel. When you write your speech, when you start thinking about your purpose, are you going to compel your audience in some way? You need to choose your topic. That's your first step, or one of your first steps. You may already have a general topic in mind that you want to talk about, but you need to narrow down your topic to a few specific points or one clear purpose, and that can help make sure that your speech will stay engaging. The general purpose. This is your broad overall goal of your speech. You have to decide, what is that general purpose of your speech? Is it to inform, persuade, entertain, inspire your audience? Think about, what do you want your audience to remember? Why are you talking or presenting to them? What do you want your audience to think, feel, or do after you have finished speaking? An example of a general purpose could be to inform my audience about dogs. Nice, sweet, simple, general purpose. Once you have your general purpose, you need to move to a specific purpose. This is a single concept that's going to establish what you want to accomplish in your speech. Think about what it is exactly you want your audience to come away from after hearing your presentation. How do you want them to feel? What do you want them to do? Let's go with the same example. In my speech today, I want you to learn about a breed of dog, the Siberian Husky. So you can see how my general purpose inform my audience about dogs. My specific purpose, learn about a specific breed of dogs, the Siberian Husky. Now you want to start working on the central idea. This is going to be the combination of your speech and your specific purpose and the points you're going to cover. It's going to be narrow. It's going to define the intent of your speech with a single declarative sentence. It incorporates that general purpose, the specifics, and it adds to the way that you are going to accomplish your task. You are setting up your audience to absorb your message more deeply and more effectively. Start thinking exactly what is your outcome for your audience. How are you going to explain it, show them, or do this? Think about what are your main points, the reasons, and your ideas that support that overall purpose. And how am I going to be able to help my audience focus on my ideas better? Let's go with that same example about the dog, the Siberian Husky, and now, today, I'm going to tell you, my audience, I'm going to inform you about a particular breed of dog. I'm going to give a quick historical review and detail a few of the characteristics so that you have an understanding of this type of dog. Think about the general purpose, the specific purpose, and that central idea in terms of in the triangle. The base, this is your general purpose, and the central idea is up at the tip of that pyramid or tip of that triangle. Next, you want to think, how are you going to structure your speech? Is your goal to inform, persuade, motivate, entertain, inspire? Now you're going to outline your speech. Start filling in some of those details. You have your introduction. This is the early minutes of your talk. This is when you establish your credibility and your likability. Personal anecdotes will often work well to get things started. And this will also outline your main points. I included this. I talked about how many speeches I've given, how many that I've received evaluations on, and the 6 different areas that I'll talk about during this speech. That's the introduction. Next, we move into the body of the speech. This is where I'm going to start talking about, or you'll start talking about, those different ideas, those supporting points. So now I'm going to talk about in today's speech, those 6 different points that I shared at the beginning. I'm going to share these points with illustrations, evidence, anecdotes. Here's a tip: be passionate. Your conviction, this can be persuasive as part of the appeal to your ideas. And then that conclusion. You want to wrap up your presentation with feeling as well as fact, and with something upbeat that's going to inspire your listeners. You want to leave your audience feeling as well as knowing fact, and with something upbeat that's going to inspire your listeners. All right, attention, everybody. Do we have your attention? Are you engaged? Are you listening to me? Yes, you are. When you write, come out swinging. Share a shocking statistic or a fact. Tell a humorous story related to your big idea. Open with a question. Have your audience raise their hands. I did that. Get your listeners engaged early. Come up with a way to get and keep your audience's attention. Throw in some humor. Throw in that story. Use a quote, something that's related to your topic. historical questions or rhetorical questions, startling statistics, a personal experience. There's so many different ways that you can grab attention in the introduction of your speech. When you start crafting the body of your speech, that's what the majority of your speech should be spent on. This is where you present that central idea. You start supporting your ideas in an organized way. When you have your topic, you have your ideas. You do not have to share everything about that topic. You're going to have a 50-hour speech or more. We don't want that. Today's speech is 18 to 20, and I'm sure I'm getting real close to that time frame right now. If you're in a 5 to 7 minute speech, what are the most important ideas you want to stick, you want your audience to remember and come away with? That's what you need to share. Think about how you are going to organize your main point and all of your supporting ideas. You want to maybe use some logical sequence. You can have a chronological speech, but you can also have other ways: categorical, comparison and contrast, spatial, biography, causal, problem, cause, solution, psychological. I am not going into detail about what all of these different ways of organizing a speech are. That could be one of your homework assignments. Use transitions. Sometimes your audience will not necessarily know what is important. They don't recognize it. And that's why you want to use transitional phrases to signal your intent. As an example, ask a rhetorical question. What does this mean? And you follow it by a pause. Silence gets attention. And this tactic can also create anticipation. Maybe use a phrase such as, all right, here's our lesson. That could also capture an audience's interest. It's going to alert your audience that something important is about to happen. Keep your speech engaging. Use concrete details to support your points, brief stories, examples, factual data. Use visual aids to support your speech. Images can be powerful and engaging, but choose wisely. Use a picture that is going to support what you are saying. Once you have the basic structure of your speech, you have some ideas to keep the speech engaging. But now is the time to add variety and interest. What's the old saying? Variety is the spice of life. Giving your audience exactly what it expects, it's like handing out sleeping pills. A speech is more like a conversation than formal writing. The phrasing is a little bit loose, but it doesn't have those extremes of slang, the incomplete thoughts, the interruptions that are going to interrupt the flavor that we usually experience in everyday speech. And what are a couple of ways that you can accomplish spicing up a speech? Oh, I've got a plethora here. Rhythm and pacing. A good speech, it has pacing. You can vary your sentence structure. Use short sentences. Use the occasional long sentence to keep your audience alert. Sentence fragments are fine if you use them sparingly or for emphasis. Use the active voice and avoid passive sentences. Active forms of speech make your sentences powerful. Repeat keywords and points. Besides helping your audience remember something, repetition builds greater awareness of central points or your main theme. Use rhetorical devices. This is a method of using words to make them especially memorable. Alliteration, metaphors, similes, the list, it goes on and on. At the end of this presentation, of which I will be emailing to each of you, the last page is going to have a list of about 30 different rhetorical devices, different ideas for you to consider. In addition to the rhetorical devices, we have rhetorical questions. Ask the questions that will attract your listeners' attention. Personal experiences and stories can help bolster your points and help you connect with the audience. Repeat key words and points. Besides helping your audience remember something, repetition builds greater awareness of central points or your main theme. And you have quotes. Good quotes work on several levels. It forces your audience to think, but you want to make sure that your quotes are clearly attributed to the person who said it initially. And you want to try and pick someone that your audience is going to recognize. All of these different spices, you do want to use them sparingly in your speeches, because if you overuse them, your speech becomes too exaggerated. But used with care, they will work well to move your speech along and help you deliver your message in an interesting, compelling way. The final moment of speech. This is what the audience remembers most vividly. At the end of the speech, return to the strong purpose that you began with and try to end in a meaningful way. Maybe you want to create a vision of the future or share a story of success. You could also end your speech with a clear call to action when it's appropriate to motivate your audience to complete a certain task. For example, if your speech was about how the company you work for plans to become more environmentally friendly, maybe your call to action is to encourage others to make small changes in their own life. That's it, folks. The 6 areas to focus on when writing a speech: audience, purpose, structure, grabbing attention, crafting your message, and creating a memorable conclusion. My challenge to each and every one of you, should you choose to accept it, your challenge is to come up with the purpose for your next speech. Come up with the purpose for your next speech. And at our August 27th meeting next week, each and every one of you will be asked, what is the purpose of your next speech? And what is the date that you will give this speech to our club? I'm getting some nods. They like that one. So now you have your challenge. I am Chris Poole, traveling and visiting to Florida all the way from Wisconsin. If you ever want to contact me, I have my email and my phone number, and you are always welcome to come and visit any of my 3 clubs. We love having virtual visitors. Although if you want to drive here to Sheboygan, I am more than willing to make my husband fry out some brats, and we'll get you some beer and cheese as well. Thank you, everyone. I'm looking forward to hearing your purpose next week. Take care. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Chris. During your speech, I was like, you know what? You've already given me an idea for a speech that I want to give. And I'm just going to call it here, guys. It's about dogs. So if you had the same thought, you can't give it no one else in the history of Toastmasters gets to give another dog speech after this. So no, I'm sure my topic, my specifics on dogs would be different anyway. So thank you for that. Just to note, of course, Elle will be our evaluator and she will be doing a round robin. So everyone, during the round robin, think of a brief something that you want to give to Chris about her speech, or impressions or feedback that you can give during the round robin.